Well, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to leave Boise, but look at that storm that's going over the 84 right there. Ah, crud. High winds ahead. Ah.
Hey folks, Chris here. So it's been a while since I've done a vlog entry style for my video, and I just want to talk really quickly about traveling from Boise down to Twin Falls where I'm at. I'm migrating down to central Utah where I have family, and I'm going to be staying for a couple of weeks while I do some work that I've really got to be planted for. And I was in Boise for maybe 4 days or so, maybe 5 days. Was it that long? The great thing about going back to a city that you've traveled to is that you know where to park because you've parked there already. And that was the case here in Boise. I was just able to go back and find that, and it was great. It just worked. And there was a big, long street parking there, wide street. There was kind of constant flow of people coming and go, and I parked there for a little while, and it worked. And there was a Planet Fitness there, and right next to the Planet Fitness was a grocery store that had one of those in-store Starbucks. They had good Wi-Fi and power, and so I was able to go there and work during the day, and that just worked really well. I just really needed the consolidation of those things. When I was in Seattle, things were so far apart and spread apart, I got really exasperated. But today I had to leave, and so I packed up the scooter.
Well, I got to take my scooter and get it hooked up on the back of the RV. Got to grab these because I need these off. This is the ramp, and I always put, when I take these off, I always put these right there, so I always remember that they are right there. Comes off, and there is a little hole right there, and this thing has that little piece of metal that fits in there. And then I have to make sure it's basically lined up. Okay, there we go. Have to try and sort of line it up as best I can. These, which are just short-term stabilizers there. And then I take this. Put it back on there. And then I always put the kickstand down there.
I did a bunch of things in the RV that I normally do to get ready. I closed some windows. I made sure some cabinets were closed.
And this always likes to come open, so I had to install this little latch here. I've probably got to tighten that up. Okay, so then I close this. I could probably come up with something better, but I just have this string that I latch it to there, and that just prevents it from flying open.
The scooter is a fun story because when I got the scooter hitch for it, I was really nervous because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to install it because I'm just not a mechanically inclined person. And in fact, when I was in shopping for the scooter itself, I was really nervous because the spare tire sits back there, and I was nervous that I was going to get a scooter that just wouldn't fit. So I had to take a bit of a leap of faith and buy the scooter hitch and buy the scooter and hope they would work out. And it turns out that the scooter fit just perfectly. It actually rubs just up against the spare tire. When I first had to install it, and then the first time I had to put the scooter up there, it was kind of a nerve-wracking thing, and the scooter almost fell off because I didn't know how to balance it. Now I can throw that scooter up on there in just like 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, literally, I can get it up there and get it done, and it's not a stressful thing anymore. So it's sort of a good life lesson in a way for being able to take on a fear and just make it happen, and then it becomes no big deal. So I finally took off, and the weather was nice. Earlier in the day, there was a weather front passing through, and I was nervous because I had wanted to really make some distance today. But it turns out, just because of the fronts passing through and the weather, I knew I would probably only be able to make it to Twin Falls, because I got out of Boise a lot later than I had hoped to, because of this big storm moving through. And it turns out that it was traveling right from Boise and directly to Twin Falls over the 84 route that I was taking. And so I had to wait for a little while for it to pass Boise and for it to get about halfway there. And I figured, well, I'll just get on the road after it and just sort of follow it, and hopefully I won't really actually get into it. It's not very interesting land down here, I'll tell you that. Probably the most interesting area is when you kind of descend into an area where the Snake River passes through, and you wind down into an area that clearly has a lot of old volcanic rock. That's probably the most interesting area. So you just drive for a while through really kind of boring, desolate land. And the most interesting thing between here and that Snake River area was a little solar farm that I saw. There was a solar farm there. How fun is that? I decided to stop and let the storm do a little bit more traveling, because I was right on the back side of the storm, so I pulled off to a rest area, and kind of a funny thing happened. Turns out that the rest area itself was closed because of a power outage, but people were still out there, and so I just decided to pull my camera out and just do a little bit of photography, because the road was parallel to sort of some of the geology of the Snake River having cut itself through, and so I thought it was interesting. So I pulled out my camera and I was photographing, and there were a couple of cars parked around, and after I was done, I got back in the RV, in the cab of the RV, and a guy comes over and he knocks on the door and he says, "Howdy."
Can I ask why you're taking pictures of my vehicle and stuff?
I wasn't. I was taking pictures of the mountains in the distance.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't taking pictures of your car, sorry.
Okay.
No.
And he kind of looked at me. He was smoking, and he kind of looked at me with this really suspicious, like, what kind of nefarious thing were you doing? And I said, look, I was just photographing the scenery behind your car. Sorry, I wasn't photographing your car. And then I just closed the door. And I'll show you the footage, and you can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. It was kind of funny. It is windy, 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 and cold at this rest stop in Idaho. Look at this. Look at the wind farm over there. It is going to town with all the wind that's out here right now. And then when we come over here, you can see the interstate. Look at the scenery off in the distance, though. Isn't that amazing? There's already snow off in the mountains in the distance, but it is cold. Yikes. So I took off and I kept going, and I did kind of catch the backside of the storm, but it wasn't too bad. I was a little bit nervous because I've driven in high winds before, and it's not very fun in an RV. But you just drive, and it gradually does turn into more typical sort of farm country. And by the time you get into Twin Falls, you go over that amazing gorge, that rift in the land, which is awesome. And I just pulled into the parking of a mall right next to a Starbucks so I could go in and do a little bit of work, and then came here where I'm parked right now. So anyway, I just wanted to give you sort of a quick vlog style rundown of what it's like to travel and work and do the nomad thing. So anyway, thanks for watching.